Welcome to the Compliance Officer's Playbook podcast.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
Whether you are an AI developer, a compliance officer, or just someone fascinated by how we govern the future, you are in exactly the right place.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because right now we are looking at this really monumental shift.
We really are.
For the last few years, the conversation around artificial intelligence has been largely theoretical, right?
Oh, completely. It's been all white papers and, voluntary corporate guidelines.
Right, abstract principles. But that era is officially over.
It is.
We are transitioning from theoretical ethics to hard, unyielding regulatory compliance.
And highly technical engineering frameworks.
Exactly. So our mission is to demystify the operational reality of the EU AI Act and AI governance. And to understand exactly how this transition is going to play out, we are pulling from an incredible stack of sources.
It's quite the stack.
It is. We have the AI Act governance, best practices for implementing the EU AI Act from the Applied AI Initiative.
Which is fantastic on the technical side.
Yeah. We're also pulling from the detailed checklists, specifically the obligations under the AI Act by the legal minds at Kellerhals-Carrard.
A very crucial document.
We also have conformity assessments under the EU AI Act, a step-by-step guide from the Future of Privacy Forum.
The FPF guide is gold for anyone actually trying to launch a product.
For sure. Plus, we're integrating insights from the ISO 42001 implementation, a practical guide to building an AI management system.
Which is the operational blueprint.
And finally, we're referencing taking the EU AI Act to practice by bird and bird. And joining me to navigate this massive stack of documentation is the calm, analytical voice of reason who always helps us connect the dense legal text to practical, real-world engineering.
I appreciate that introduction.
Yeah.
This particular stack is, it's fascinating because it forces us to look right at the intersection of law and code.
Yes.
We aren't just talking about what the law says in a vacuum anymore. We are looking at how a machine learning operations team actually builds a compliance architecture into their daily workflows.
Their continuous integration pipelines. Exactly. And their server infrastructure.
And why should you, the listener, care about this? Because by August 2026, the global standard for AI compliance changes forever.
It really does.
And the way your organization builds, buys, or uses AI could either be your greatest asset or a massive legal liability. Okay, let's unpack this.
Where should we start?
I want to start with the foundational legal architecture. When we talk about the EU AI Act, what exactly is the legal framework we are dealing with? Is this just another data privacy law like GDPR?
No. And that is actually the most common misconception. It's not just another data privacy law.
Right.
The most crucial paradigm shift to understand here is that the EU AI Act is, at its core, a product safety regulation.
Product safety.
Yes. It is heavily inspired by what the European Union calls the New Legislative Framework, or NLF.
And what does the NLS usually cover?
The NLF is the exact same regulatory structure that governs physical, potentially dangerous things. Medical devices, elevators, toys, heavy machinery.
Wait, so they are treating AI software like heavy machinery? Yes. The AI Act is not trying to regulate how smart a computer program is. It's designed specifically to protect the health, safety, and fundamental rights of Europeans from defective or dangerous products.
That's a huge distinction.
It is. And because it's an NLF-inspired framework, the Act itself only defines the essential requirements. It leaves the highly specific technical compliance activities to be defined by harmonized technical standards.
Which are currently being drafted, right?
Right, by European standardization bodies. But the underlying philosophy is entirely based on physical and societal product safety.
Let me stop you there just to make sure I have this right. You're saying the European Union is looking at a complex, billion-parameter large language model and regulating it with the same underlying legal philosophy they use to regulate a chainsaw.
Or a commercial elevator, yes. In terms of the legal mechanics, absolutely.
That's why.
Think about it this way. If you build an elevator, you have to prove the cables won't snap under a certain weight limit before you're legally allowed to install it. The EU AI Act takes that exact same pre-market safety approach and applies it to software. You have to prove the system won't systematically discriminate, hallucinate wildly, or compromise safety before you put it on the market.
Okay, that reframes the entire conversation. It's not about how smart the AI is, it's about its intended purpose.
Exactly.
And its potential to cause harm. Which brings us to the famous risk pyramid outlined in the Kellerhals-Carrard checklist.
Yes, the risk proportional approach.
How does that actually work in practice?
So the Act categorizes AI systems based on their intended use case, not the underlying technology. At the very top of the pyramid, you have unacceptable risks.
And these are just totally banned, right?
Outright banned. There is no compliance framework for them.
What's an example of an unacceptable risk?
Things like social scoring by governments, manipulative subliminal techniques, or real-time biometric categorization in public spaces for law enforcement. With some very narrow exceptions, you just cannot build or deploy them.
Got it. And below that?
Below that, you have the high-risk category. This is where the vast majority of the regulatory burden sits. It's where our sources spend the most time.
Right, because that's where the heavy compliance is.
Exactly. Then below high risk, you have systems with specific transparency obligations, and at the bottom, low or minimal risk systems.
Okay. But what about the massive models like ChatGPT?
Right, so uniquely traversing all of this, you have these systemic rules for general purpose AI models, or GPAI.
So the Keller-Hall-Carrard checklists make it incredibly clear that your obligations are dictated entirely by who you are in the ecosystem.
Yes, your role is everything.
If I'm an organization trying to figure this out, what are the distinct buckets I might fall into?
Well, the value chain approach here is groundbreaking because it distributes liability aggressively. The three most critical roles you need to understand are the provider, the deployer, and the importer or distributor.
Let's start with the provider.
A provider is a natural or legal person, public authority, agency, or other body that develops an AI system, or has one developed, and places it on the market under their own name.
So the provider is the developer, the builder,
Yes, they are the originators of the system.
and the deployer,
A deployer is any entity using an AI system under its authority.
with the exception of just personal use at home, right?
Right, excluding personal non-professional use. But if you are using an AI system for your business operations, you are a deployer.
And importer or distributor.
An importer brings an AI system from outside the EU and places it on the EU market. A distributor makes an AI system available on the market, but they aren't the provider or importer.
I want to make sure you, the listener, are mentally mapping your own organization to these roles right now. Let's use a hypothetical.
Okay?
Say I'm a regional bank, and my executive team decides we need to modernize, so we buy an off-the-shelf AI credit scoring tool from a massive tech vendor.
A very common scenario.
As the bank, I might look at the EU AI Act and think, oh, well, we didn't write the code. We didn't train the model. So this regulation doesn't really apply to us. We just bought a license.
And that assumption is completely dangerously wrong.
Because I'm a deployer.
Exactly. You are not off the hook.
Yeah.
In that scenario, the bank is a deployer, and deployers have highly specific legal obligations.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, the EU is treating AI like they treat medical devices or heavy machinery. Safety first.
Yes. Think back to the heavy machinery analogy. If you buy a forklift for your warehouse, the company that built it is the provider. They ensure the engine meets safety standards.
Right.
But you, as the warehouse owner, are the deployer. You have to ensure your workers are properly trained, that you are using the forklift according to the instructions, and that you are actively monitoring it. The liability is shared.
The applied AI source uses a great real-world example with Carl Zeiss Meditech AG, a medical tech company.
That's a perfect analogy.
So if a hospital buys a diagnostic AI tool built by a software developer to detect anomalies in X-rays, the hospital is the deployer. The software builder is the provider.
Correct. The software builder, the provider, has to ensure the model was trained on representative data, has a risk management system, and comes with a manual.
And the hospital,
The hospital, as the deployer, has to ensure the doctors are using it only for the specific types of X-rays it was trained on.
So if the hospital uses an adult lung X-ray tool on a pediatric patient?
The hospital has violated the AI Act, not the developer.
Wow. Okay, your entire compliance roadmap depends on this single question of who you are. Before we dive into the high-risk stuff, what about the general-purpose AI models?
Like GPAIs.
Yeah. How does the Act handle a system that doesn't have a single specific purpose, but can write code and generate poetry?
The rules for GPAIs target the massive tech companies training these foundation models. Your obligations depend on whether the model poses a systemic risk to the European Union.
Which is defined by compute power, right?
Yes. Specifically, if the training compute exceeds 10 to the power of 25 floating point operations.
That's a massive threshold.
It is.
Yeah.
If you hit that, you face mandatory model evaluations, adversarial testing, specific transparency obligations, and you have to respect EU copyright law while publishing detailed summaries of your training data.
But for most of our listeners, the immediate concern is dealing with the systems they are building or buying for specific use cases.
Exact.
And if those systems touch critical infrastructure, employment, or biometrics, they hit the high-risk category.
And that puts them in a completely different regulatory universe.
Right. This is Chapter 3, Section 2 of the AI Act. The essential requirements for high-risk AI systems. Articles 9 through 15. Let's break these down because the compliance burden here is immense.
It requires a fundamental shift in how organizations approach MLOps.
Let's start with Article 9, the risk management system. The Kellerhall's card checklist makes it clear this isn't just a spreadsheet you fill out once.
Far from it. It must be established, implemented, documented, and maintained throughout the entire life cycle of the system.
So continuous testing.
Yes. You have to identify known risks and, crucially, test the system to identify new risks after development before it goes to market.
Next is Article 10, data governance. For years, the prevailing wisdom was just scrape the internet, get more data.
Article 10 completely destroys that workflow.
How so?
It mandates that datasets must be relevant, representative, and to the best extent possible, free of errors. You also have to examine the data for possible biases.
So data lineage becomes just as important as the code.
Exactly. If a regulator asks why your AI made a decision, you have to point back to the exact version of the dataset it was trained on.
Then there's Article 11, technical documentation. This has to be drawn up before hitting the market and kept for 10 years.
And it's significantly more rigorous than a simple GitHub README. It requires a detailed description of the architecture, algorithmic logic, and testing procedures.
Which leads into Article 12, record keeping and logging, the automatic recording of events over the system's lifetime. Here's where I see a massive clash between the law and engineering.
The Applied AI white paper highlights the absolute struggle of operationalizing this.
Because you can't just have lawyers write policies, you need actual tools.
Right. Applied AI points out you need Layer 2 integration and Layer 3 execution. You need MLOps tools to automatically log data dependency graphs, hyperparameters, and data drift.
Let's talk about the physical cost of that. Article 12 requires logging, but logging high-frequency AI creates massive engineering and data storage overhead.
It's a huge trade-off.
How do you balance the legal requirement for traceability with petabytes of cloud storage costs?
The Applied AI group broke this down nicely. During data engineering, you log the expected data statistics, like profiling datasets.
Okay.
During modeling, you log the model architecture and confidence intervals. And during deployment, you log model explanations and fairness metrics.
So you log the metadata of the decision, not necessarily a video recording of every microtransaction.
Precisely.
Moving to Article 13, transparency, you have to provide instructions of use for deployers. And then Article 14, human oversight.
This gets a lot of attention in engineering circles.
The human-machine interfaces. The text mentions the need for trained overseers and a stop button,
Article 14 is nuanced because it addresses automation bias.
which is when humans just trust the machine because it's a machine.
Right. Overseers have to be able to understand the system, avoid that bias, and intervene.
So practically speaking, what is a stop button? Do they just unplug the server?
It's a technical mechanism to immediately revert the workflow to a manual human-driven process or to revert the model to a previous stable version.
And finally, Article 15, accuracy, robustness, cybersecurity. The system must perform consistently.
This connects deeply to the testing in Article 9. You have to prove robustness against data poisoning or adversarial attacks.
I want to push back on Article 13's transparency rules. How do you justify the appropriate level of transparency without giving away proprietary trade secrets to your clients?
Or creating security vulnerabilities.
Yeah.
It's a recognized severe trade-off.
Right. If you tell a bank exactly how your model weights work, you might give a malicious actor a map to poison your data.
This is an open question the industry is wrestling with right now. The standards currently being drafted have to define what sufficiently transparent means without destroying the commercial viability of the provider.
So, you've built a system, you've logged the data, you have a stop button. How do you actually prove this to the government?
That brings us to the conformity assessment.
Let's walk through the Future of Privacy Forum Guide to Conformity Assessments. Step 1. Is it required?
It's only required for high-risk AI, and you have to determine if it falls under Annex I or Annex Z.
What's the difference?
Annex I covers AI systems that are safety components of a product already regulated by other EU laws, like an AI braking system on a train.
Got it. And Annex 3?
Annex 3 covers standalone systems expressly listed as high-risk use cases, like biometrics or employment screening.
Okay, step 2 is when does it happen?
before it reaches the market, or if there's a substantial modification. We'll definitely need to come back to that term.
Yeah, substantial modification sounds like a trap.
Yeah.
Step 3. Who performs it? Usually the provider, right?
Usually. But under Article 25, there's a crucial twist. A deployer or importer becomes the provider if they put their name on it, change its intended purpose, or substantially modify it.
Wait, so if my marketing team decides to slap our company logo on a white-labeled high-risk AI tool we bought from a vendor
Congratulations, you just legally became the provider.
and inherited all the conformity assessment obligations,
Everything. The risk management, the logging, the technical docs, all of it.
that is terrifying for SaaS companies. Okay, step 4. Internal versus third-party assessments.
Annex I systems usually require third-party assessments by what they call notified bodies.
Official auditing firms.
Yes, but Annex III can often be internal self-assessments.
But a self-assessment still requires compliance with Article 17, the quality management system, right?
The QMS, yes. It's a massive accountability framework covering your entire organizational structure regarding AI.
And it includes post-market monitoring under Article 72 and serious incident reporting under Article 73.
Exactly. And once you pass, you draw up an EU Declaration of Conformity and fix the CE marking.
I want to circle back to substantial modification.
It raises an important question.
Right. What counts as a substantial modification? If a model continues to learn after deployment, modifying its own weights, does it need a new conformity assessment every single day?
FPF notes a vital clarification. If the changes were predetermined and assessed in the initial assessment, it might not be considered a substantial modification.
So if I tell the government in advance that the model will shift its weights within specific statistical boundaries, I'm safe.
As long as it stays within those boundaries. It's a massive feature for machine learning, but also a huge loophole. You have to forecast the bounds of your model's future behavior.
Okay, so the legal requirements are terrifyingly dense. How does a normal company actually build a system to manage all this without grinding innovation to a halt?
This is where we look at ISO IEC 42001.2023.
The world's first international standard for AI management systems, or AIMS.
Right. If you compare it to existing frameworks, GDPR is about privacy and personal data. ISO 27001 is about security and unauthorized access.
And ISO 42001.
ISO 42001 is about AI-specific risks, algorithmic bias, model drift, unexplainable outputs.
Let's walk through the roadmap. Step 1 is inventory systems.
You can't govern what you don't know you have.
Then gap analysis.
Comparing your current practices against the ISO standard.
Then risk assessment, design the aims, implement controls, audit, and certification. I want to focus on implementing controls.
Yes, because ISO 42001 cannot be just documentation theater.
It has to be technical.
Exactly. It can't just be consultants writing policies that sit in a binder. The governance must be fundamentally technical.
Like drift monitoring.
Drift monitoring is essential. There is concept drift, where the relationship between inputs and outputs changes.
Data drift, where the input features change.
And performance drift and bias drift.
Because AI incident management is different from traditional software. It doesn't just crash.
Right. It quietly degrades or hallucinates.
Contrast this with the NIST AI RMF. NIST tells you what to do.
But ISO 42001 tells you how to do it systematically, and it's certifiable.
And the source material discusses the manual versus automated approach.
Spreadsheets might work for 1 or 2 models, but they break down at scale. Enterprise requires integrated platforms, like OneTrust, linking models to risk assessments automatically.
Here's where it gets really interesting. ISO 42001 certification isn't a legal shield against the EU AI Act,
It's not.
but it provides the operational operating system to prove you are doing what Article 9 and Article 17 demand.
It creates the auditable paper trail.
Okay, we've talked a lot about high risk. Let's pivot to the rules that apply to almost everyone. The compliance baseline for the AI economy, as Bird calls it. There are 4 scenarios here. First, chatbots.
You must tell people they are talking to an AI.
Second, synthetic content or deepfakes.
Must be machine-readable and visibly marked.
Third, emotion recognition systems. And fourth, text generated for matters of public interest.
All require explicit transparency.
And looking at the Keller-Hawes-Carrard deployer checklist, deployers must use systems according to instructions and ensure relevant input data.
And if their public bodies perform fundamental rights impact assessments under Article 27.
What about Article 86, the right to an explanation?
Individuals affected by high-risk AI decisions have the right to obtain a meaningful explanation of the AI system's role in that decision,
That's tough for a black box neural network.
which is why the upstream transparency is so vital.
Let's look at the timeline. The Code of Practice is being drafted right now.
Under immense pressure, yes.
Because Article 50 obligations become fully applicable 24 months after entry into force.
August 2026.
I do wonder about the friction of marking all AI content. Will this become like the GDPR cookie banners where we are just bombarded with made by AI watermarks?
It's a huge concern. If every image has a watermark, users might just become blind to it.
But even if you are just a standard business deploying a simple customer service chatbot, Article 50 applies to you. You cannot ignore this act.
Absolutely. To synthesize all of this, the EU AI Act is complex. It's a product safety law that distributes liability.
But knowledge must be applied.
Yes, frameworks like ISO 42001 make it solvable.
It's a massive shift, which leads me to a final provocative thought.
Okay.
As AI regulatory compliance becomes this massive data and tracking burden, with continuous logging and drift monitoring across hundreds of models.
It's beyond human capacity to monitor manually.
Exactly. So will we inevitably see the rise of compliance AI? AI systems specifically designed to monitor, log, and audit other AI systems to ensure they meet the EU AI Act standards.
That's a fascinating concept.
But then who audits the auditor AI?
Does the compliance AI need its own conformity assessment?
Exactly. It's a recursive loop. I want you, the listener, to mentally review your tech stack and start your AI inventory today. What stands out to you? If you're loving this conversation and want to be part of keeping it going, the best way to support the show is to become a paid subscriber on Apple Podcasts. You'll get access to the full episode plus every deep dive we do. Head to Apple Podcasts, search Compliance Officer's Playbook, and join our growing community today. Invite listeners who love this show to become a paid subscriber today for $5 USD, and get full access to all premium episodes packed with insights, stories, and value they won't find anywhere else. Thank you so much for your time and curiosity.
Thanks for listening, and best of luck out there.